Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody. And thank you for chiming in to this Centre of Connection, Intimate Conversation. And today's guest, we have the Manaian Way, Mr. Glenn Phelan, with us. Hi, Glenn, and
Hi,
welcome.
Nancy, how are you?
Good, good. So good to have you here. I miss our conversations and our gatherings. Glenn lived in New Zealand and has shifted back to Australia. So we miss having a cup of coffee and a bit of a yak and setting the world right.
Yep.
Yeah, we do. So, Glenn, I will just read your introduction, and then I'll get you to add in anything that you feel you might want to. So, Glenn Phelan has been married for 34 years and has two children and one new little grandson, Ollie.
Yep.
He's so gorgeous. I've worked for myself most of my life and have been a quiet activist of sorts, trying to find ways to change the way we do things on the planet. So Glenn has been into cars, houses, and farms, and now he's working on his way to change the way we live on the planet. So Glenn, anything else you'd like to say in that intro?
I've been a bit of a rat bag. That's about it.
Oh, yes.
I generally, because I ask a lot of questions, I generally upset people because it's not where, you should lead the questioning to. But it's all because I've been looking for things most of my life. And it's interesting because I've always tried to put a jigsaw puzzle together. And I didn't know what the jigsaw puzzle was until we virtually left New Zealand. And then I sort of nearly had it all put together. And since we've been sort of following our way through our intuition around the world and living in different places, we've picked up different information along the way, and it sort of helped to put it all together. And now we're living in this ramshackle sort of house in Nambour in Queensland, which was all pulled apart. It was a hoarder's house. It had all these problems with it. And we sort of fixed it a bit and we've moved in. But the pathway feels like home. So there's something that says you can stay here for a while. So that's good. So, and it's now I'm trying to formulate the actual business model of this idea. So
Beautiful. That's great. And I've seen you do so many houses up and properties. So, I'm sure you're doing a great job in that one. So, Glenn, you came to New Zealand in 2010 after losing $3 million in Oz through the GFC.
Yeah.
So, my first question to you is money the most important thing in life, or are you driven by some other values?
No, the main value has always been freedom. Freedom's always been the most important thing for me. I've realised Jenny's more worried about security, and I do a lot of things just for freedom, and security's sort of second on my list, but I'll make sure that I've got my own income stream coming in. I'll make sure that I don't have to pay anything off, that I'm not sort of caught up in the world. And I've always sort of done that. So I've done that 2 or 3 times and been free, and then I tend to put my foot back in the pool again and have another go at something else and stuff it all up, or have a go and make it work again. So that's sort of, freedom is the most important for me.
And it's often told too, and from those who teach anything about manifesting and abundance and prosperity and wealth, is that most multimillionaires have actually lost a lot of money in the process of getting to where they end up, eventually fulfilling their heart's desires and dreams, really. But it's a learning, isn't it? Finance and money.
And quite often you'll get to a fork in the road where you can choose either direction, and it doesn't matter which direction you choose, you're sort of still going to get to the end result. But the thing is, that generally trips you up at the same time because you don't know what the other direction was and what it could have done for you if you went that way. So you sort of have to choose every now and again, and that's the most difficult thing for me, to actually choose a direction. Like, I'd rather just know where I'm supposed to be going and point my compass in that direction and go. But sometimes you get to that fork in the road where you've got to choose, and that's the most difficult thing I've ever come across.
How do you do that though? How do you sort of gauge what's the right decision in that moment?
You always have to look at both sides of everything and then just choose one and go, I'm going for the good parts of this. I already know what I think are the bad parts. I'll just try and avoid them while I'm heading down that direction. So
Right.
really, I think you've just got to have courage to have a go at something.
Yeah. You do, yeah, you do, and I think when we take out of what's out of our sort of, I think for me anyway, the way the world is, if we took judgment out, no right, wrong, good, bad, if we just saw it all as experiencing, we wouldn't sort of probably stress so much around what we're doing and how we do it, because we won't see it as failing, as in making a wrong decision. It's more about the choice and just experience.
Yeah, I don't think I'd fail at anything because everything's a learning. So if I crash and burn and lose all my money there, I'm not going to be able to pick it up over here with the knowledge I've already learnt, which is generally what happens all the time. So, when you lose all your money in Australia and have to go to New Zealand, and then I probably sat back and rizzled about it for about 4 years before I got back on the wagon and had a go again. And then it didn't take that long before I upset the council enough to end up having to go back to Australia, but we still went home with nearly $1 million in our pocket. So it makes a big difference because you know what you're doing. You've already learnt the game. So and the game is, as far as I'm concerned, it's always got to do with energy. So a lot of people contract when things happen, but that's the time you're supposed to open up and just, go bigger, have a go at it, because, I know which way the inward way goes. It doesn't go anywhere. So going out, you've just got to go out, and that's scary, and it's all sorts of things. So you've got to have courage to open up and just be bigger, go bigger. I think that's how I've done it all the time. I've done that quite a lot. So my way sort of to do things. I'm caught up into something.
And it is having the courage to be able to go have another turn, really, because I think a lot of people get frightened off if they've made a mistake as such, termed as a mistake, and maybe lost a lot of money. Sometimes it's fear takes over and they don't tend to put it back in.
I think I've met people in parks and things that have made a lot more money than me, and then they've lost it all. And I can see just what they've done, and I know they've got the skills to step back in and have a go, but they're demoralised, And there was one bloke in Grafton where we were living, and he had 300 employees. He was doing this big cleaning business. He did it straight out of school, and he just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the way he was explaining it, I said, you got shut down on purpose. These other cleaning mobs shut him down, and he didn't realise that was true, but he did have warnings along the way, and he told me the warnings that he had, but he still didn't believe that that's the way humanity works. He was still good in his heart, and so he felt like he was the one that did it all wrong. So I've met lots of people like that, and it's quite sad to see that they haven't stepped back up and had another go again, and instead they'd rather live under a tree or under a bridge, so it's not that they want that, but they just don't want to step back in and get hurt again, I think. So I don't know how to actually tell those people or help those people out of that.
Yeah. I'm sure they find their way eventually, as we all do, I suppose, if we have the courage to try something new again anyway.
Yeah, you tried it to inspire them back out, Say, oh, that's a great idea. You should be doing that. I haven't heard anyone have that yet, So because they've got the ideas, they just don't have the courage to have a turn. So.
Yes, yeah. So, Glenn, you don't work in a conventional sense, but you're always working on something. Have you recently, what have you recently been working on and why?
If I need money, I'll find, because I've got time. So if you create your freedom, then you've created time. And when you've got time, you get to see things without a rush. So you get to see a lot of opportunities, and you can go, oh, I'll have that one, or I'll have that one, or I'll try this, or I'll try that. Because to me, the whole world's full of opportunities because I've created the time, because I've created the freedom. So I have been just working on how to create freedom for you and everybody else, because I don't think it's right that the way the world works. So I actually want to get everybody to have this complete freedom from jobs, freedom from everything, and then, well, I'll create the world equality that is needed as well. And I've sort of worked out how to do that now. So now I'm just going to sell everything and have a go again. Jenny's going to be grumpy again this time, but she's sort of supportive now, so it's okay.
Yeah, yeah, yes. So explain that to me, Glenn. Like, explain how did you, like? So we're talking about Manaian Way.
Yeah, we're talking about Manaian Way, but we're talking about the Manaian Way as a philosophy is something to remove our cost of living and to maintain that freedom from it. So every generation after us won't have to pay for our basic needs. So to do that, we have to create a directive. So we have to create a free basic needs directive, and then we've got to get people to invest in free basic needs. So within 20 years from now, if everybody did it the way I've got it worked out at the moment, we would be free. So when we're free, we're still not equal, but we're equal in a sense in a country, but we're not equal because there's world currencies, there's all sorts of different things that get in the way of making us equal with everybody else. But free basic needs is what will give us wealth. Like, riches and wealth is a different thing. People who chase money are chasing riches. Wealth is actually not having to pay for something and living within your means all the way through. So Jenny and I, for instance, we don't have to pay for anything. We've got our small income stream coming in. Now she's created another one. So we're probably going to be rich one day, I don't know, but we've got a little block of flats that give us an income. We've got a house that we're fixing up that we can take our time and not worry about and do, you know. So wealth is actually, the money comes in to pay for the car or to buy the food or whatever. So we've actually, that's what I call wealth. And I think everybody would aspire to have wealth in that sense. And then anything you want to do after that, like whatever your passion is, you're not chasing the money for it. You're actually, if money comes with it, it's like extra on top of what you're doing. So the best part about free basic needs is we won't be job dependent. We won't need debt. And a really good part is because we won't have to work for corporations, then they won't, you know, have to rush out and strip mine more land and do all the bad things that they continue to do and not care about the people. So,
yeah.
So my whole system that I've created is about protecting the people and the environment. So yeah, it's a mouthful, I know.
No, that's great. And so, because really another part to that too is, from what I understand, in the sense of becoming wealthy, is to have multiple income streams, eh?
Yeah, you can have multiple income streams. The main thing that people forget is to buy things and pay things off that they'll never have to pay for again, that they use. You know, so you can do that with housing, you can do that with electricity, you can do that with water tanks, you can do that with an internet tower, you can use all sorts of things. You collectively buy that thing and then no one has to pay to use it anymore. So it's easy to put solar on your roof, but you can't have a roof unless you've got either the ownership of the house or a contract that gives you the use of the house.
Yeah.
And in Australia, in New Zealand and in England, there are things called a 999-year lease that you only pay a peppercorn for.
Mm.
And people don't know a lot of stuff because they don't look into it. But in Australia, you've got usually it's a commercial thing that can last 999 years. So I've created what I've called a rental mortgage, where people can just rent a house. Whatever the house costs, you don't charge any interest. You buy the house, you let a renter pay for that house for up to 20 years. And then after that, they pay a peppercorn for forever on, and they pass it down to their kids. They don't need to own it ever again. It's like we move away from ownership, because ownership is attached to the law. So they'll take anything you own as a penalty. You know, they'll have this fear thing going on, so you do all the right things, but you don't want to own it. You want to become a guardian again. And of course, the Manaian Way, or Manaian, is the Maori word for guardian or guardian angel, which is sort of where I've got a vision on top of the mountain. So, you know, it sort of all ties in together, doesn't it?
Yeah. Would you like to share that experience, Glenn, and what New Zealand meant for you really when you were living here?
Well, it's funny because I know I've got Maori guides, you know. If I call on them, they step straight in, and I don't know if I've got any Maori heritage, but I seem to be drawn to different places, and I was always drawn to New Zealand. Maybe I married Jenny because she spoke different to all the Aussie girls. I don't know. But there's a particular part of the bush when you come through Dome Valley. It smells different, and it goes straight up my nose. I love the smell of that part of the land for some reason. You know, there's different parts of different lands that must mean something to me at different times. But
yeah,
when we lost our money and went back to New Zealand, of course, we moved in right next to you, which just happened to be an interesting time after that. So, but before that, we were going through the losing everything stage, and I went over to New Zealand to have a look what I could do there, because we were lucky enough to have just put a deposit on a block of flats at Cook Street. So because I went over there, I looked around and I found this old house, which was wrapped in paper, that the road was going past and the front was getting taken off. And I was able to get a deposit onto that from having the flats. And so that got us started again. And from then on, we sort of did that up, and we did a few other houses up. We ended up renting in Ruatahi, and I think we borrowed a book off you. I'm not sure if it was your book, but it was, one day we came home and all of Jenny's spiritual books were in a big pile on the floor. They were all face down, but this one book that we'd borrowed, and I'm not sure if it was yours or not, but it was Vision Quest, and it was face up on top of the pile.
Yeah.
And I looked at the thing, and it said, go to the top of the mountain for your vision. And I'm like, oh, all right, so that's what I mean. So, and I was like too fat and lazy to do that. And about 2 weeks later, I climbed the mountain and put my hands on the rock, and I got a vision on how to, for a lot of things actually.
Yeah.
Felt like I'd stepped back in time as I walked across the ridge. I was sort of looking for saber-toothed tigers in the bush and all sorts of weird things. And I was reciting ancient poetry when I came down off the hill. So I wrote about 80 different poems in 4 different handwritings, and put all this paper on the floor and started to work out how humanity has gone wrong. What are our foundations? Where is it working? What could you change to make it turn back into something better for everybody? And so it began there. It began from a vision on top of the mountain. Yeah, an interesting time anyway.
Yeah, very interesting. Excuse me. So how can you make housing free in this day and age? Like you're saying about rental mortgage. Oh, is that what you call it?
Which doesn't exist yet. Yeah.
Yes.
We have a mortgage for ownership, which makes you become an owner when you've paid it off. And we're going to, or I've created a rental mortgage, so when you pay it off, you become a guardian of the property. So you can either be an owner or a guardian, and ownership will take you about 50 years. because you'll rent a house, you'll save a deposit while you're renting, then you get your 30-year mortgage, and 5 or 10 years into that, I think the average is 7 when people remortgage.
Right.
So then they sign up for another 30 years. So it usually takes at least 50 years for people to own a property, you know. It's a really long time out of your life. But if you were to rent a property that collectively we all bought and took you to 20 years and then you never have to pay for it again, you're much better off in the first place. And if we put solar on your roof, so you've got a huge set of solar panels and you don't need all that power, you know, we can pass that on to somebody who needs the power. You know, you've got the power, but somebody else can have the power. You put your water tanks in so you don't have to just have the supply of water from the government, you know. So it's a very easy thing to do, and people have got to realise that you can separate the ownership from the use of a property. It's already done anyway through tenancy contracts and things like that. We just haven't looked into it hard enough to make it work for us. So that's what my whole system sort of starts with, a guardianship housing system, because that's the most expensive thing that we've got in our basic needs.
Yeah. So how do we get into that, Glenn? Like, how do we start with something like that?
What happens is I've created it so you have a 2-layer system for a lease, because you have to have a head lease and a sublease. The head lease has to be a company, because a company can last for 999 years, whereas a person will die, you know, will die off and then it goes back through the whole system and starts again. But you want it to be able to last and pass down for generations to generations. So to do that, you need an authority, which the Manaian Way is going to be the authority.
Yep.
So it's going to be the head leasee. It doesn't want to profit at all. It just wants to get in the way between ownership and the people using it. So then everybody sort of comes to this person as the pain in the ass or whatever it might be, but there needs to be that layer of protection, and that's what the Manaian Way is going to do for people. It's going to step in the way, and it's going to allow you to, because we can tailor make leases, you know, so you might have 50 grand towards a house or something, and you put that in and you can shorten your term from 20 years down to 10 years or 5 years, and then not have to pay, you know. So we can tailor make it to suit whatever we like. It just depends where we get the property from. Are we all putting in to buy the property? So we've got to create ways to collectively own property.
And so are you sort of, is there a subscription thing? Like, are we joining in? Is it a membership sort of thing that you go into in Manaian Way, and then that's what gives you the rights to that? Or
at the moment, I'm working on a franchise model.
Okay.
So there's going to be, people are going to buy these franchises, and they're going to be set up all over the country. And another difference with that is they're going to be a not-for-profit franchise.
Yeah.
Now, they don't exist in Australia. They exist in America. There's only a few of them. And they're starting to come online. I don't think there's any in New Zealand either. So that is another thing which is really hard to get information on because it's so new. But what you'll do is I'll start with a secondary needs library. Now, secondary needs, because you've got your primary needs, which is housing, electricity, food, water, transport and communications. But then you've got secondary needs like trailers and utes you might need to borrow, or I don't know, tools, you know, everything.
Right.
Jacques Fresco in the Venus Project, about 60 years, came up with this library idea where people didn't have to buy the goods. They could just go and borrow them if they needed them, like borrow the tent, borrow a boat, borrow whatever. You don't need to have them sitting around the house, you know. Just have a library subscription for that. So if you started a franchise where people could give all their stuff, they didn't have to have it in storage anymore. It can be in this place. It can be lent out, brought back, you know, and you have a subscription for that. But at the same time, you can also have your primary needs come through there as well. And I'm not completely finished with the idea because it's just got a lot bigger, because it's turned into karmic credits. So people are going to if you give your stuff to this place, you'll get karmic credits. And if you want to take it out, you can go against your karmic credits, you know. So it's a give and take in karmic credits. And karmic credits is going to end up being a whole new banking system for the people. So it's going to be, I just bought the two websites, Karmic Credit Bank and karmiccredits.com, you know. So it's going to be like, instead of the World Bank and the IMF fund, we need something that is a simple blockchain of you and me exchanging credits, which will end up being whatever at the end of the day, but it'll make it so we can do that with a person on the other side of the world. So whoever's in China or India will still get the exact same amount as we get for our labour and all that sort of stuff. So it's sort of turned into this big whole world equality as well, because, and that will be backed by the 3 basic needs that I've got set up. So I haven't quite worked out exactly the business plan for the franchise, but I sort of know what it is. I just have to get it in order, and every country's got different rules. So, and every state in Australia's got different bloody rules. So you've got to go through the rules and try and work it out yourself. But I'll do it so it can be a global thing like McDonald's and be around. So everyone will know where to get their goods and give away their stuff that they don't want to help people.
Yep.
And hopefully, and I'm trying to make it so the franchises are going to be really profitable, which means that then they'll expand and do more things for the people. So yeah, I'm just making it so everyone's going to benefit as much as they can. And if a dollar comes back to me, well, so be it. But if it doesn't, I don't really care either. It's just, I don't know, I've got it worked out that everyone will get paid, and I'm going to be the person everyone wants to hit with a stick.
Glenn.
So somewhere along the line, I'll get paid somehow, probably with a bullet to the head.
It sounds great. I mean, it's so how does it get started now? You've still got homework to do, I suppose, or
I've still got homework to do on it, because there was a lot of people in New Zealand, I think maybe because of the name of it, when we've done a lot of expos in New Zealand, we seem to have a lot more people on board for the idea. Over here, everyone's like, oh yeah, who cares, you know, don't give anything to anyone for free, is what people say, but you're not giving anything to anyone for free. What you're doing is just helping them get to a place, and they pay that back anyway. So, you know, over time, and you can set up that payment to what the person can afford. You don't have to have rip-off payments of $600 a week that people can't afford. If you can only afford $100, that's what the payment's going to be. Right. You know, you make it tailored to suit people. So you've got governments that are handing out all this money to these property, you know, people looking after your housing.
Yeah.
But if you actually work out the numbers, and I'm a bugger because I work out numbers on what they're spending and what they're not. And a lot of times I've been working out they've only got about 13% left from what they are blowing on having this great big enterprise on the people. And then they borrow money against that, you know. And I don't want to borrow money at all. I don't want this connected to a bank at all. No. So the people put the money in, the rent comes back in, it pulls back up and buys another house for someone else. We don't need it to go through an interest-based system or anything like that. We just want it to make it keep going, and eventually we'll all have a house that we all feel is comfortable as an owner, because we're not going to get put out. We can do it up the way we want, you know, because we all live the way we need, and we pass it down to our kids. And if we don't have kids, we can pass on to the next person who needs a home. Yeah. And if it's paid off already, it doesn't need to be paid again.
Right.
So if we were to buy you a house now and you only had 10 years to live, say, and you might have got a 20-year term on it. Well, whoever you pass it to has just got 10 years left to pay. They don't go back to the start like it does with this system, you know, so it makes it so much easier for everybody. And we need some sort of ease and grace in the world rather than this rush, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very hard to find people that are thinking the way I think, and I don't think anyone's got the time to put in to actually create something like this. But I know that free basic needs is going to free humanity, and it will create real world equality.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of writing out the steps now. And there was a kid we met in New Zealand, an Indian kid who's now living in Russia. And for his whole year, he's only getting paid $8,500 a year.
Wow.
In equivalent money to Australia. So, and he's working from 7 o'clock in the morning till midnight. For that, he's walking in the snow to get this security job in a thing. So he's an IT kid. So I've asked him to work for me instead for the exact same amount, because that's about all I can afford. But I'm going to get him, I've just bought 10 websites in English. So, and I'm going to get him to do 10 websites in Indian and 10 websites in Russian and 10 webs, you know, and just blanket the damn internet, you know, so everyone will start to get to know what it is, and I'll be able to help them head towards the right direction. And if we all work towards the same thing, we're all going to get there. And what's going to happen to the current world? Well, the way I've got it figured, ours starts inside the world that is, and as it grows, the old world, the bits we don't need, will fall away anyway.
Exactly.
And that's the way it sort of has to work. You can't sort of upset what's going on at the moment. So you've got to create something that comes in softly, but it's sort of like a coronavirus. It gets bigger and bigger, and, you know, everyone's like, oh my God, that's what this can be. You know, let's hope this is a good coronavirus that can bugger everything up and turn it into a good world, you know. So yeah, there's lots of ways to look at it, man. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's very cool, Glenn, and I mean, you know, I've always sort of got the concept, because this is so in depth. It's like going down a rabbit hole with you when we go into a discussion on it.
Yeah, I know.
But it's always been really interesting, and you know, for me, I've always known there will be a time for it, you know, and I know the time when it came through wasn't quite the time then, but it's getting into that time now. And this new world, as we call it, or the new earth, is really built now from, you know, hearted communities. And that's where this type of thing will fit. Yeah. So what, Glenn, is it that you sort of need at this point in time for this to actually, you know, come into play in a big way?
I still need more time to get the franchise model the way I want it, and then I've got to employ the franchise people, because you need different ones in each country and each state. There's a lot of money that I've got to put out soon, and that's why I said to Jenny, I'll have to sell a flat soon, you know, so I can put all my money into this. It's one of those things. We need to employ people, but if they've already got their mind set and it's already been stuck into some box, it's really hard to bring them into something that's new. So I actually need students or something like that I can train. But then if that's the case, I've got to train them in my way of doing legal work and my way of doing all this other stuff, which is not the way it should work, but it's sort of how it's going to have to work, because when I go to solicitors, like there's a solicitor in Brisbane that we've used twice. He's $1,000 an hour plus GST. And the first time I thought he got what I said. The second time he just put it into this other box and he said, "There's just no point trying," you know.
Wow.
And it's just, and he's a supposed economist, and you know, he's high up in all of this stuff. Wow. And I'm like, these people just don't have an open enough mind to give them something completely new. And you know what it'll do, but we even went to Canberra to hand the stuff in, and the security people said I'm not allowed to influence anyone there.
Oh.
So I wasn't allowed to give anyone any of my information. I try and send it through emails and you don't get any response back.
Wow.
I've had the housing minister in New Zealand send stuff back through the Prime Minister's office, but then it doesn't go anywhere. So the Prime Minister's office seems to send my stuff through to the housing minister, but then they don't do anything about it, you know, and you guys have got nearly more problems with housing than we've got now. So
yeah.
It's like, why don't they just listen at least?
Yes, yes. And could you have a Zoom meeting with one of them or that sort of thing? Maybe writing isn't quite the way. It's, I think, conversation like this where it gets sort of in.
I know, and I was sort of looking at that. I think I need videos done. I need it to be in video form. I need it to be in lots of different formats to be able to get it done. And yeah, I find that most people just look at me and think I'm crazy, you know, and it's the way it always works if you're coming up with something different. The thing is, but my things have got 5 or 6 differences in it that other things don't have. My system's also legalist, so it can't be corrupted and it can't be manipulated and people can't take it over to try and put things in, you know. There's so many things in my system that are just they don't have nowadays, that it makes it so much harder to explain to people because they don't have a concept of that.
Yes.
You know, so it's really sort of difficult to do that. And if we do need people in my system, if it gets too big and I can't do it or it can't run by itself, I've got it set up so it can be run by kids.
Oh, wow.
So I don't even need lawyers and bankers and all these other people that usually ruin everything. So I don't need any of that. I just need the people to dish out the basic needs, how it's set out. Stage 1 of basic needs, stage 2 of basic needs. Once everybody's got the housing, the water and the solar, then the money all falls back out and we can create stage 2. It's just like a simple money system that just keeps going on and on and on.
All right.
So,
and to start that, do you need investors though?
Yeah, I'm going to need investors soon, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll need them probably in every country, I would say. So, yeah, it's a big project, that's for sure. I've actually been working on this for 10 years, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I've got so much knowledge, and when I tell people and stuff, I'm rushing through it so quick. You know, people are getting confused and lost. I've got all these different ethical investment rules. I've got, which don't exist in the world today. I've got different ways to invest in it. I've got all sorts of things. There's just too much stuff. I just fill the computer with writing nowadays.
Yeah.
So now I sit back and I get lazy and then I go outside to do something and all my muscles get sore because I haven't done anything for a while, you know, so I don't know.
Glenn.
My world's going to the pack, Mandy, and I stopped drinking too, which is a good thing.
I suppose it's got to break down to be rebuilt new, eh?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic, Glenn, and it is a great idea. It really is, and I know, you know, like you say, it is in depth though. I do get that very much, and it's something that not everybody's going to be able to understand the concept for sure.
Yeah,
but there's got to be people that are entrepreneurials, you know, multi-millionaire dudes or somebody that could grasp because it's got to be somebody.
There will be, and that's why I've had to separate. I can't just do it on one website. I've had to do it on 9 websites. So people that are only interested in certain bits, they'll just go, holy shit, that's not the way we normally invest, or no, this is not how retirement works. And so I've got like a clock face of different things. So some people might want to know 2 or 3 of the websites, but others might, if you get to do the whole lot, then you'll grasp the whole concept.
Right.
And it's going to, everything's sort of in steps and everything's also in duality. So it's got both sides at the same time. So it's a really like, it's hard to explain to people. If people ask me a question, usually I can't give them a complete answer because it might touch something else, and then I'll go into that rather than just this, you know.
Yeah.
So it's I'm sort of trying to separate it now. Once I started writing the websites for this kid in Russia, I was able to see it better. You know, so it's sort of helping.
Yeah, it is like that, isn't it? It's like coming out like Hawk, you know, looking down and looking at it from a bigger perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, because you start like that over the top, and then you get right in it, and then you forget to go back out and look at what you've got.
You do.
Yeah, that's what I've done this time. So,
and it does help, definitely. So, Glenn, anything that, any final sort of just, you know, remark that you'd like to make in respect to this interview and yourself? Anything?
Look, I think everybody's got great ideas for something, you know, and most people don't back themselves for whatever reason. And I think that's got to be the worst thing you can do in your life. You've got to be able to back yourself and have a go. And the more you get into something, the more you can see how it can expand or how you can do it better or whatever. So I usually look at things in a great big long-term view. I'll try and destroy what I've created as well. So hopefully no one else can come in and try and destroy it the way I've tried to destroy it, and I've made it so you can't do that. I'll always do things like that, and then you've got to get to a point where you can see the pluses and the minuses. Like with a system like this, it'll be the only system in the world that could create freedom and then real world equality. I don't see anything. There's not many systems in the world that people are putting forward, but none of them are going to do that. So it's completely opposite to what everyone else is trying to do. They're trying to have more income or an equal income or this, that, and the other thing. And it doesn't do anything for the planet, and it doesn't do anything for the people. So everything else has been created by politicians. And I don't know, we're sort of, you've just got to have a go at your own thing. And then I haven't liked authority my whole life, and I've realised I have to become the authority on it. So, you know, it turns you around until you go, stuff it. This is what I am. So this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think you and I, in fact, I think there's a whole heap of us in humanity this lifetime that really are not into authority. And we came in to be free because that was really what our whole true, my core things being freedom as well. And I think that's really the main sort of theme of us in our pioneering years of this, you know, new world ascension, descension.
That's right, man. Like, I could get you to create all of my stuff over there. You could become the powerhouse if you wanted to be, because I'll give it all to you. It's like, I'm never going to hide anything. It's like, here it is, and I'll help you create it. If you could create a whole heap of investors to get it started, I'll show you what I've got. And then I'll sit there with you in the room and because they're all going to put their 2 bobs worth in. But if it doesn't lead where this is supposed to lead, then it's no, you know, I'll put a stop to it, because it's got to lead in the right direction and end with the right impact at the end. You know, we've got to have freedom at the start, and we've got to have our full world equality at the end.
Yeah.
And that's the right way to do something. So I can't, once I put that equality, that full world equality at the bottom, that was the bit that was missing, and I only just got that about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. So it was something that just, I don't know, I kept asking Spirit for some help, you know, to create it. And this morning I woke up one morning with all this blockchain information in my head, and I didn't even know what it was. So I had to hunt through the computer to find out that it had something to do with Bitcoin. Then it was the system behind it. Then it was a system that's nearly unhackable. So, and instead of creating a Bitcoin, I was going to create it for karmic credits for New Zealand and karmic credits for Australia. And then it falls, once everyone's got their basic needs, it fell down into this world, a gold chain at the bottom, and that created the new karmic credit whole system for the world. So I've sort of changed that a bit now. So I usually start with something, then I try and change it, and I try to make it better, and then usually it goes back to the start anyway. So
Yeah.
but that's
Because if we think, and this is going into, I don't know where it might go, but you know, the talk is, and the way that what we can see is sort of the way it's heading is that the banking system in this world of separation and duality is going to fold in and crash, and it's sort of looking like it's doing that now, you know. So we, you know, most of us are sort of looking now at the blockchain, the crypto, you know, currencies and things. And is that where this system, you see this system sitting in there?
No, because all those blockchain things, they're pyramid scheme. So I look at them all and I can see they're a pyramid scheme. It all funnels. And that's not what I'm creating. I'm creating actually everything in this world is designed on a pyramid. You know, so you've always got the leader at the top and the people at the bottom and all the enforcers and layers and things. My whole system is a platform, a flat platform for humanity on a spiral. So it'll go up if we all want something better, and it'll go down if we're all stupid. So, you know, it's one of those things where we've all got to be equal so we can be leaderless.
Yeah.
Leaderless might sound scary, but the thing is, our leadership is all heading towards our basic needs anyway, and our basic needs starts with the things that people need just in a life, but then it'll add, we need clean air, we need, you know, good forests, we need kelp forests, we need the fish in abundance again, we need all of that stuff. So it starts with your basic needs, but those other things are your basic needs as well. We just don't look at that. So that's what's going to drive humanity in my system. Right. So it's all about protecting the people and the environment, but you've got to protect the people first. And then when we've got the time, we'll start to look at ways to get that right as well. So it's a big thing, actually, what I've created. It's pretty cool.
When we're right in here, you know, well in here or okay in here, everything out there is as well. You know, we shift that environmental stuff. So yeah, very cool. It's very cool, Glenn. And a lot of work and energy I know you've put into it, and I really wish you all the best. I know it's going to do what you're intending for it to do, because you are, you know, you are the guardian basically and the creator of it. You know, you're the vessel that it's come through. So
that's right, yeah.
It's
and I'll put everything that I've got into it. So and if I don't, and drop dead, I'll at least leave all the information for everyone else to get through. So that's how it works for me. It's I don't know. I've never been one to, like you said before, I don't chase money. Sometimes I'll see what I can do to make money, but it's not like I need to work for it or I need to do anything to drive a supercar or something like that. Funny thing is, I've owned about 100. I've actually owned 134 cars in my lifetime. 1,000 acres, 1,000 cows. I've owned bloody nearly 40 properties now. Done all sorts of things in my life. So I'm not going to go. I'm not going to leave this earth and go, oh, I didn't have a go. So, you know.
No, you're not. Definitely not. You've certainly had a go, Glenn. And I love that. I do. I love it because, yeah, I'm a bit that way. Maybe not as courageous as you in some respects, but definitely always had the courage to step into what I know was going to be the right thing for me at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not worried about change.
And I think you'll find, even if I don't know all these wealthy people that can put money into it at the moment, I'll be able to get investors to put money in, because there's got to be people with good hearts out there that are going to give it a start.
Absolutely.
You know, and they'll also tell me what I'm doing wrong and what I'm not doing wrong, and I'll either take that on board or I won't. But most of the time I listen to what everyone else has got to say, because that's where I've created this whole thing from anyway. And if I hadn't have had the life I've got, I probably wouldn't have been given the vision.
No.
You know, so you have to have the go and be able to do things to be able to have enough knowledge to be given the vision to actually do it. So
yeah,
I think, you know, I've had plenty of goes, and they've decided, oh, let's see if this clown can bring this onto the planet or not. And if he can, great. And if he can't, oh, well, he might leave something behind. So,
yeah. No, it's gorgeous. It really is. So we just put a shout out now to all the entrepreneurs or philanthropists on the planet who are wealthy enough to help them create something new with you, Manaian Way. That would be great.
it would be great.
It would. Absolutely.
Thank you very much for that interview then, Mandy. Hopefully that's the first one. So, you know, I can't get one on a TV. I've sent things in and they're not interested. So, you know,
yeah.
So,
no,
cool.
and we just share it out there as much as possible and get you out there. But thanks so much, Glenn, for giving your time today and coming in to this intimate conversation. It was so lovely sitting here with you again, having this conversation.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity, Mandy.
Beautiful. All the best. Lots of love.
You too.
All righty.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.